All right, let's dive in. Today, we're opening up the Smart Traveler's Toolkit. This is all about how you can turn your next trip from just, seeing the sights into something, well, something that really sticks with you. So let's start with a big question, one you've probably heard before. What's the real difference between a tourist and a traveler? We kind of have this idea that tourists just skim the surface, while travelers are after something more. But what actually sets them apart? Well, here's the secret. It's not about how many stamps are in your passport or how many miles you've flown. The real difference, the game changer, is all about communication. It's about having the skills to genuinely connect with a place, not just look at it from a tour bus window. I mean, think about it. Anyone can snap a photo of a famous building, but a real traveler, they see how that building fits into the bigger picture, how it's a piece of a much larger cultural puzzle. They connect the dots. So, the question is, how do we get good at that? It all kicks off the absolute second you get there. Before you even think about what you're going to say, the most powerful tool in your entire toolkit is just your eyes and ears. It's all about paying attention. So, your very first skill isn't speaking, it's observing. Here's a fun way to think about it. Pretend you're a travel vlogger walking into a chaotic, beautiful local market for the first time. Your job isn't to buy anything just yet. It's to soak it all in, to understand the story of what's happening around you just by watching and listening. And it's pretty amazing what you can pick up on when you're just being a quiet observer. You start to see how locals talk to each other, the little gestures they use. You notice what's flying off the shelves, the things that are really important to their daily life. You'll get a feel for the pace of the place, and you'll figure out super practical stuff like, oh, okay, everyone's using cash here. You learn so much before you've even asked a single question. And right there, in the middle of it all, is the vendor. Just by watching how they do business and chat with customers, you start to get a feel for the whole scene. Okay, so you've done some recon, you've gathered a little intel just by watching. Now that you've got a bit of a feel for the place, it's time to actually jump in and start interacting. Let's use a classic scenario, one we've all been in. You're lost, the map on your phone isn't helping, and you need to ask a real, live human for help. It can feel a little nerve-wracking for sure, but it is the perfect chance to put your communication skills to the test. There's actually a pretty simple playbook for this. First, you always kick things off politely. But then, and this is important, you need to listen for something called the imperative form. It just means direct commands, like go straight or take a right. It might sound a little blunt to you, but it's totally normal for giving directions. Knowing a few other key phrases helps, of course, and you should always give a little confirmation like, okay, got it, so they know you understood. And here's the key takeaway. Using these direct commands isn't rude at all in this situation. It's just efficient. You asked for clear directions, and that's exactly what you're getting. Understanding this tiny piece of grammar is also a little peek into how the local culture works. Pretty cool, right? Which brings us to the really high-level stuff in our toolkit. Getting past the spoken words to understand the unwritten rules of a culture. This right here is where a real, genuine connection starts to happen. The best way to think about etiquette is like it's the invisible software that a society runs on. And every culture has its own unique version. When you take a little time to learn the basics, you're not just being polite, you're showing a huge amount of respect. And you're saving yourself from those cringing moments where you accidentally do something offensive. The good news is some of these rules are pretty much universal. Learning to say hello and thank you in the local language, that goes such a long way. Dressing respectfully, especially if you're visiting religious sites, is a no-brainer. And if you get a chance to take part in a local tradition, just do it with an open mind and respectful heart. You can't go wrong. And then, of course, there's the flip side, the big don'ts. And the number one biggest mistake? Assuming that what's normal for you is normal everywhere. It's not. That thumbs up gesture that means great where you're from, it could be a major insult somewhere else. Also, be careful how you talk about the food, and just be aware of the local vibe when it comes to things like public affection. A little bit of research beforehand is your best friend. It really all boils down to this, doesn't it? It's a pretty simple trade. Temporarily swap your personal habits for the local norms. This isn't about you changing who you are. It's about showing respect for the world that you've been welcomed into. So observing, interacting, understanding, they're all absolutely crucial. But you know what? The most important part of your entire journey might just be what you do after it's all over. Because at the end of the day, the best souvenir you can ever bring home isn't something you buy in a shop. It's understanding. It's that fresh perspective that changes how you see things. That transformation from just seeing to truly understanding, that's the real prize. Okay, so how do you actually do that? How do you process all these new experiences? I've got a really powerful way to think about it. Try to structure your thoughts like you're writing a comparative essay. Now, I know what you're thinking. Essay sounds like homework, but stick with me. It's actually a super simple mental exercise. It's really easy. For your introduction, just pick one cultural thing you noticed. Maybe it was how people eat dinner together or a local festival. For the body paragraphs, you just compare and contrast that with how things are back home. What's similar? What's totally different? And then the conclusion, that's the gold. That's your personal reflection on what you learned from it all, about the world and maybe even about yourself. So as we wrap things up, I want to leave you with this question. Your next trip is on the calendar. Armed with this new toolkit, observing, interacting, understanding, and reflecting, what's the one thing you're going to try to do differently? To go a little deeper and make it more than just a trip, but a real journey of connection.